New York City is the wealthiest in the world and among the most significant global cities. As the world's financial hub, including Wall Street, it houses over 10 million residents and drives the U.S. economy. With immense wealth generated, it is home to nearly 200 billionaires and the world's most influential families. However, for the first time ever, New York City is experiencing a downturn. Recent years have seen a series of disastrous issues stemming from the pandemic, digitalization, and a range of financial challenges faced by the city. New York has become prohibitively expensive, choked by crime and poverty, and an unfavorable location for pursuing the American dream due to exorbitant costs. Homeownership, car ownership, and raising a family are privileges exclusive to the affluent. Consequently, these issues are causing New York to relinquish its title as the world's financial center, becoming a city of lesser significance and one in decline. To provide some context, in 2021, New York witnessed a population decrease of nearly 400,000 people. While many would attribute this to pandemic-related losses, the actual reason is massive migration. For the first time ever, New York has seen close to 1,000 residents leaving the city daily. In this video, we will examine why the emblem of capitalism and opportunity is nearing its demise. New York City was among the urban areas most impacted by the pandemic. In this chart, you can observe the city's economy size based on its gross domestic product. As evident in 2019, this number was almost $1.6 trillion. To offer some perspective, $1.6 trillion is equal to the combined economies of Mexico and Peru. However, as shown here, during the pandemic, New York City's economy shrank by 6%. This is the most significant decline in its history, far surpassing the less than 1% drop during the 2008 recession. The financial collapse amid the pandemic proved catastrophic. In the initial phase of the pandemic, 1 in 3 employees lost their jobs, and this number has yet to rebound. It's projected that 1 in 10 workers remain jobless. The turmoil in the job market stemmed from a flurry of immediate bankruptcies. The influx of visitors and consumers in New York vanished due to lockdown measures and the public's fear of catching the virus. The hardest-hit sectors were entertainment and hospitality, transportation, as well as other professional services. Picture this: millions suddenly lost their jobs and found themselves stuck in the world's priciest city, which is currently New York, tied with Singapore. To provide some examples, average rent for a one-bedroom flat is nearly $4,000 per month, and if you can't afford the city center, you'd pay almost $2,400 monthly for the same flat on the city's outskirts. When it comes to purchasing property, the cost per square meter in central New York is about $15,000, while on the outskirts it's nearly $10,000. Taking your partner out for a dinner date at a regular restaurant would set you back $100, excluding alcohol and gratuity. In New York, the average cost of a glass of wine is roughly $12. Picture the devastation of losing your job in such a scenario. The ultra-wealthy and those able to work remotely were the only ones who profited from this crisis. Remote workers typically held positions in finance or other professional services and earned high salaries. However, the shift to remote work contributed to New York's decline. The city's allure once drew millions of immigrants seeking opportunities in the land of dreams, as living there was a prerequisite for accessing work. With digitalization eliminating the need for physical presence at work, New York City's appeal has waned. In other words, picture New York City as the driving economic force for the entire United States, and as the global financial epicenter. Within its boundaries, individuals earn millions of dollars annually. To provide some context, the average post-tax salary in New York City is nearly $6,000 per month. Keep in mind, this is an average, so it's quite ordinary for a professional to make $120,000 or more per year. This wealth concentration has led to New York being deemed the priciest city globally, with an average one-person apartment rent of nearly $4,000. However, the shift towards digitalization has transformed the professional environment, allowing individuals to earn equivalent salaries in more affordable cities. That's precisely what occurred during the pandemic. People opted to leave New York for more cost-effective cities within the same or different states, offering larger living spaces and closer proximity to nature. This chart displays the most favored destinations due to the pandemic and digitalization. As you can see, the vast majority chose to escape the chill and head to Florida. Numerous others remained in the New York vicinity but relocated to less expensive neighboring states. For instance, in Tampa, Florida, the downtown rent for a single person is $2,000, nearly half of New York's. If you were to purchase an apartment here, it would cost almost $4,000, approximately a quarter of New York's price. Additionally, the typical recreational and living expenses in Florida are roughly half of those in New York, and Florida offers pleasant weather and green spaces. The prospect of starting a family and achieving the American dream is more attainable than in New York. Another pandemic-driven factor contributing to the mass migration was safety concerns. As previously mentioned, the pandemic induced significant anxiety within the city. New York City is among the most densely populated places globally, with people in close proximity, leading to fears of infection. Many were hesitant to reside in buildings, believing the ventilation could spread the virus. Amid the pandemic, crime in New York City surged despite a two-decade-long decline. The challenging financial circumstances of the underprivileged contributed to the increase during the pandemic. Consequently, people relocated from the city for various reasons. Another factor driving migration from New York City was taxes and the city's impending bankruptcy. New York City has the highest taxes in the nation. The U.S. allows each state to set its tax rates, and New York State has the highest taxes in the country, even surpassing California. This chart demonstrates that states like Texas and Florida have nearly half the tax rate of New York at the state level. However, New York City imposes its own taxes, pushing the rate higher. Income taxes, sales taxes, and other city-level taxes contribute to the total. To illustrate, an individual earning $100,000 in New York City would pay over 31% in taxes, leaving $68,000 in their pocket. In contrast, Florida residents pay 22% in taxes, resulting in nearly $10,000 more post-income tax. Thus, it is apparent that remote workers would prefer relocating from New York to Florida. This raises an essential query: why are New York City's taxes so high? The answer lies in the fact that both the city and the state of New York are on the verge of bankruptcy. In conclusion, multiple factors have contributed to a significant migration from New York City. The dense population and fears of infection, increased crime during the pandemic, and the city's high tax rates have all played a role. With New York City and the state facing potential bankruptcy, it is understandable that residents, particularly remote workers, are seeking more favorable living conditions in states like Florida. Addressing these issues is vital for the city's future prosperity and the well-being of its inhabitants.